really, really good. If that 5 minutes is you screaming at the top of the voice, or do one of my Zumba songs and really go for it, give yourself those 5 minutes. Or it might be laying down in a quiet room, no distractions, and just letting your thoughts wander. Or it could be a walk. Give yourself your time. It could just be 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes will pay much more dividends than you think. It really, really will.
So, how 5 minutes can change your life. Bestseller by Lisa Johnson.
Yes, let's come up with a list of all these things you can do for yourself in 5 minutes.
Hello and welcome to Celebrating You, and I'm really, really honoured today, really excited. I've been looking forward to this for ages. I will introduce to you a very, very special woman, Lisa Johnson. Such a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on here. Like I say, it's been a long time, like you said, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, you've kept me waiting, so that's really good, because I'm so curious to hear from you, Lisa. And so all I'm going to do is ask you the simple question of what is it that you do and how did you come to be doing that?
Okay, right. So I run Pearl Lifestyles, and it is soon to be Pearl Life Community Interest Company. So I'm moving into social entrepreneurship, if that's the word, if that's how you say it. And I enable and I empower women to rediscover their true selves and learn to love themselves, to work on the most important relationship of all, the one with themselves, because it underpins every other relationship you're ever going to have. And I do that through a foundation of establishing and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and becoming aware of who you are, what you are, and what you want to do. So, right, and the reason I'm doing all this is because I know people meet me now and they see a really fit, healthy, bubbly, energetic person, and that's who I am. That's who I am now. That's me now. However, it wasn't who I was 14 years ago, when I was living in a women's refuge with my 7-year-old son, and I was consumed by guilt because of my son, for keeping my son was 7, so for keeping my son in an abusive environment for so long, uncertainty. I didn't know what the future held. I was just a shadow of my former self. I really, really was. And the things before all of that happened, rewind a little bit before the relationship happened, I was always fit and healthy. I used to be a gymnast. I grew up a really active, sporty child. I'd travelled the world, so quite confident in myself, had a really good job. And I'd also delved into self-help. So, as you're growing up, I was in sort of early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and you're sort of unsure of who you are, what you want to do. And so I had started delving into self-help and thought, oh, I'd like, what's this thing called life coaching? Obviously, that was a long, long time ago. I met my ex in 1996, so it was a very long time ago. But nonetheless, I had a great job. I had 2 jobs, lovely holidays, fantastic life. And then I met my ex. After, like I said, I travelled the world, had this great job. And within a matter of months, my life had spiralled into violence, fear, hatred, contempt, control. And I would say probably within the space of 3 months, I was scared for my life. I'd been beaten to the point where I was scared that the next beating would be the end of it. And there followed the first 2 years of extreme violence, extreme control. I've always said you brought a level of violence into my life that I never knew existed. I never knew. I grew up in quite sort of South London council estate, so I was pretty tough. My family was a pretty tough family, but this was something else. This was like what you see in films. This was being chased after in the road on a dark night and dragged home. It was hours of being tortured, and things. It was to a level that you saw in the films. My life was just like a film. It really, really was. And one pivotal moment I can remember that stays in my mind, bear in mind this was a long, long time ago, was one day that unusually I've been allowed to go out. I've been allowed to go out on my own with my family. Never normally happens, never normally happened. It was always a case of, yeah, you can go, and then an hour or so later it would be something would happen. He'd engineer an argument, or I'd apparently do something wrong, so I wasn't allowed to go out. I'd been allowed out, was out for the afternoon or so. As I walked back in, I walked into this patio door, so I went round the back, opened the patio doors, and I looked in the living room, and every single one of my belongings, my clothes, was torn to shreds, was ripped to pieces. Every single thing I owned. Um, and that was me, gone that day. I looked around, and I was on quite a high because I've been allowed my freedom a bit. I thought, oh God, things might be changing. And then I got home to that, and I looked at him, and he was sitting on the chair with his sort of head in his hands, as if to say, I don't know what I've done. It's not my fault. And I just felt the last ounce of me just literally drain away. I just lost me that day. I was gone that day. But life went on. Violence continued. I couldn't get away. I tried to leave. I tried to kill myself. Well, I did. Sorry, no, I didn't try to kill myself. I thought about killing myself, and then my mum turned up just before I took the pills. And but life just went on. I couldn't get away. I was scared of what would happen if I did, what he would do to me if I did leave. I was scared of what he'd do to my family if I left. I was trapped and I couldn't see any way out. And then I fell pregnant. And I can remember going to the doctors by myself. And then I phoned him afterwards and said, yeah, I'm pregnant. And he was like, if you get rid of it, I'm going to come and kill you. And he would have, he would. I knew to the level of how I'd been hurt previously. He would have. And I remember standing in a phone box, phoning my mum in tears, saying, "Mum, I'm pregnant." And she's like, "Oh, Lisa, what?" Because they was aware of what was going on, but there was nothing. They couldn't do anything. They kept trying to get me away, and I'd go back. I was just in fear for my life and for their lives. So anyway, I went back, and ironically enough, 3 months into being pregnant, he suffocated me till I blacked out. So he did actually nearly kill me. I think he panicked when he felt me go. And yeah, and then things just carried on. The violence did stop, but he didn't need to use violence anymore. Like the control, I was pregnant with his child. And Louis Ray being born, I always share his name, and he's okay with me sharing his name. We've got our story all over YouTube. Was the greatest thing for me because my ex wasn't in the hospital when I had my child. When I had him, he was off doing something else. And when my son was born, I had a different focus. I had a bit more strength about me. I had something more to live for because I wasn't living for myself at that point. But I still stayed until my son was pregnant, until Louis was 7. Numerous attempts to leave, a refuge attempt when Louis was 2, and he got to me. He got my mum to send me a letter, so he'd even got around my mum as well. And I believed he was going to change. He wrote all this in a letter saying how insecure he felt, how great I was, and he was just jealous of me, and that was the only way he could keep me in check, but he knew it was wrong, blah, blah, blah. So I went back. I went back after the police pressed charges, and he was charged with ABH against me, and I still went back. And then finally, 9 years after meeting him, after being with him, so my son was 7, we left, and we left for good. We got to the refuge, and I knew that day that was it. That was for good. Something had changed inside me. I know what it is. I was doing it for Louis Ray. I wasn't doing it for me. But a few weeks before we left for the refuge, Louis Ray at 6 had told me that he was scared of his dad. He was like, "Mum, Dad goes crazy sometimes," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, darling, but and I knew then I had to do something." There'd been a few little things that had happened that not little things actually, a few worries I'd had about how he was treating Louis Ray. And I even, in my cloud of confusion, not knowing black from white, I phoned the NSPCC once when I was at work and said, is it usual for a dad to slap his child in the face in Sainsbury's? And obviously they were like, no, it's not. And I knew it, but he could twist so much. He could twist so much, and my head was so full of abuse. I saw it everywhere, and part of me thought I was just warped. I was just so damaged. I couldn't see anything other than abuse, and that maybe he really did love Louis Ray, which I'm sure he did, in his own way, and that I was making it up. And there was one day I got in, and Louis Ray had a massive bump on his head. And I thought, I've got, something weren't right. It just happened, and there was something not right. And Louis Ray at the time went to a private school in South London, way beyond our means, but that's another story. And I walked to school that day with him because that was the only time we used to get together. So we'd walk 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back just so I could get some time alone with Louis Ray. I asked to speak to the teacher, and I said, oh, Louis Ray said that his dad has done this. I mean, talk about a cry for help, like knowing now, and she said, oh, don't worry, the kids often blame their parents. And that day I was like, it's me. Like, I'm twisted. I'm the one that's seeing all this abuse. It's me. It's just the way I'm looking at the world now. Because I've been abused, I think everyone's being abused. And how awful was I to think that he would hurt his son like that? And I felt awful. So clambered up, and then Louis Ray come out with those words that I'm scared of Dad. And then he was brushing his teeth one morning, a couple of mornings afterwards. No, the morning afterwards. And when he said it was Dad, like, Dad did do this, and I was just like, oh, I know, darling, I know, but what can you do? Because I didn't want him to be like, but okay, how did it happen? How did it happen? Then he was 6, him clamber up. I had to make it seem as normal as possible. Well, that's what I thought was the right thing to do as his parent, and to enable him to open up to me. I had to make it seem okay, like normal, not normal in the way that it would carry on like that. But then I knew there was no way I was not going to do something about this now. So we ended up at the refuge, and that day I honestly believe, and I say to Louis Ray now, at 6 years old, that boy saved my life, because I wouldn't, I know if I was literally one beating up, I don't know how to say it properly, away from him taking it too far. And I couldn't have got away and just moved away with Louis Ray. He wouldn't have let me do that. So we got to the refuge. The day, was all, obviously that day, moving to the running away was very stressful. But at the same time, I remember our train journey, because I phoned Women's Aid. They said, get a train to here. Somebody will meet you at the train station. Didn't even know where Winchester was. Never even heard of Winchester before in my life. But that day, my sister had picked me up from work, and we'd had this like cloak and dagger sort of story. Like, I'd taken my call to my partner at the time, because he'd dropped Louis Ray to school, then me to work. He'd go to work. He would phone me to make sure I was okay and in work, that I'd walked up to the stairs to work, and then he'd tell me he loved me, and that meant that was okay. I hadn't done anything wrong that morning. So that all happened as normal. And then I phoned my sister. My boss knew. I'm still friends with my boss. She was amazing. She come pick me up, so we sort of ran, got me, went to Louis Ray's school, got him, and Louis Ray's like, Mum, where are we going? And I'm like, we're going on holiday for a couple of weeks, darling, just me and you. And he went, is Dad dead? And I still to this day don't know what, I think because I was crying, I don't know what that meant, whether that was, I can assume and maybe want to believe that was hope. I don't mean to be awful, but probably that, in my heart, if I'm being completely honest, I would love, I don't know. Anyway, I'll make of it what I want. Yeah, no one can. Anyway, so we got to that, and that train journey to the refuge, I felt free for the first time in 9 years. We shared this Twix. Silly little thing, isn't it? But we shared this Twix, and we laughed and we joked the whole way, about an hour or so's journey, the whole way. And life in the refuge started. Um, and it was a time of confusion, of doubt, of uncertainty, of guilt. It was very cloak and dagger. We weren't allowed to tell anyone where we lived. The solicitors all we had to do a court case. We went through this court case, and all the solicitors' stuff went from a different solicitors so that he couldn't identify where we lived. And the first month or so was all about the court case. It was all about keeping Louis Ray safe. I went against any parental responsibility. I didn't want him near Louis Ray. At the time, I wondered, am I being selfish? But I honestly thought that was the best thing for Louis Ray. I really, really did. And luckily, so did the judge, because he ordered no contact whatsoever, which was good for us at the time because it was a clear break. As much as he kept trying to email me and trying to worm his way back in, it was good in a way, but it's awful in the way that it goes to show the level of abuse that Louis Ray suffered in those 7 years. So it's a bittersweet, really. However, looking on the bright side that I try and take that you have to do in these, situations, it meant we had a clear break, and I didn't have the difficulties that a lot of women and men suffer, and that then their ex still abuses them and keeps control through the children and through contact and things. So it was, like I say, it was bitter. Every cloud's got a silver lining. I truly believe that, and that was my silver lining. It enabled us to have, as much as I still had to respond to every email he sent, I know I was going against everything, because social services had said, if you see him again, Louis Ray will be taken off of you, which again, I know is awful and it's the worst thing you can hear, but that gave me the okay to say, I can't see you. I couldn't do it for myself, but I could do it for the safety of Louis Ray. And it was a blessing in disguise, that, because the minute social services backed me up and said, no, you've gone through something really, really bad here, no matter what your ex says, no matter how much he's played it down, Louis Ray's not allowed to see his dad. And that was justification, because I couldn't just go up against my ex. But I now had the police, I had social services, I had my solicitors all gunning with me. And so it gave me a bit more strength. So life in the refuge carried on. You're in there for 6 months. And I started working on me again. I'd completely lost me, to the fact where the first time I went to Tesco's, I didn't know what food to buy, because I'd always been told what food to buy. And I felt naughty buying a tin of value tuna, because we always had to have the very best of everything. Not that we could afford it, I used to go shopping with a tiny bit of money that I had, because I was in so much debt, and have to buy finest of this, taste the difference of this. And I would buy the cheaper stuff, run home, change the packaging so that he didn't think it was that. It was. So I'd got to Tesco with Louis Ray. I said, what bar of chocolate do you want? And if I'd have left him an hour later, he'd still be standing in Tesco's, not knowing, because we did not know who we were. And Louis Ray, at age 7, truly, truly believed that his dad could hear his thoughts. He would not talk out loud about it. And then he told me to speak quietly in case Dad heard. That was how controlled we were. That's how much we lost ourselves. So anyway, deep breath. That was then. And then life in the refuge. It was hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. Louis Ray went straight to school a couple of days of the week. We got there on the Thursday. He started school on the Monday. Hardest thing about that, it broke my heart to have dragged him away from everything and everyone he knew, to then leave him in a school where he didn't know anyone. And I got to the council because I had to apply for benefits that I'd never done before and things. And I burst out crying to the lady at the council, with the poor lady. But she's like, okay, but it's just my heart just broke for him, like it still probably does. He's 21 now, and it still does now and again. I don't think you ever get over that. But the ladies that I shared the refuge with were fantastic. I'm still friends with some of them, and this was 14 years ago, so but I used that time to get me back. I started running, I started jogging, I started becoming fitter again. I started choosing my own foods, which really excited me, and because we could have our healthy foods of whose we chose. I didn't necessarily, I know it's it was just a way of getting me back. I used this healthy lifestyle to find myself again. And again, a pivotal moment, which is so, so small, was Louis Rose at school. I bought a magazine, a healthy lifestyle magazine. I went upstairs and I read it cover to cover. No one disturbed me. And I was sharing a room with however many, damaged, obviously emotionally damaged women that were going through rubbish. And it was the happiest day of my life for like years. It was the most luxurious, indulgent day, So yeah, so we done that, and then we got through. While I was at the refuge, I worked. I volunteered at the school where Louis Ray was going. I ended up getting a job at the school once I'd left the refuge, and I did get pregnant again with somebody who was also abusive, who I'd actually met while I was living in the refuge. But with all due respect, those demons are done. We're sorted. We're still in contact. He's a great dad to my youngest. That's no, but that's more a bearing on where I was in order to attract that sort of person still to a much, much lesser degree. But no matter how much I worked on myself, I couldn't shake these feelings of not being good enough, of being unworthy, of being less a person than everybody else I met, of letting myself down, of letting Louis Ray down, of letting Ellis down, because we were now a single parent family and I had 2 children. 9 years apart my children were, or we was in a 1-bedroom flat. Until when I left the refuge, I left with nothing, not even knives and forks. We didn't have a cooker or a fridge for weeks, so I had so much guilt, and I didn't like myself still. I hated myself, to be honest. I felt dirty, I felt damaged, I disgusted myself. And that's very, very strong words, but that's how you feel, that's how they've made you feel. And the damage they've done isn't about the broken bones, it's not about the bruises, it's about the damage that's gone deep, deep down and affected your beliefs about yourself. And these beliefs, I feel, showed up with regard by way of my romantic relationships and my relationships with other people. So, I'd attract men, like I say, like with my youngest dad, that weren't very nice to me, that wouldn't treat me very well, that wouldn't respect me, that didn't respect me, sorry, that didn't appreciate and value me as they should do, as they should do. So I carried on working on myself. Like I said, I was very much into my healthy lifestyle. I did start feeling really a lot better in myself, which brought my confidence up. And I noticed a direct correlation between how good I felt about myself to how good I was therefore being treated by others. Directly, the better I treated myself, the better other people treated me. And I've done the rounds, I've got to admit, I've done the rounds, desperate to find this, be a family, desperate to be, this perfect family that my other, my sisters had managed to achieve, desperate to find that love. But the more I fell in love with myself, the less I needed that love from outside. And it got to the point, after all this internet dating, where I thought, do you know what, I don't need anyone. I am decent person. I'm bringing up these kids really, really well. I'm proud of the mum I now am to my boys. I had a job, I was providing, we were going on holiday every year. I was doing all right, and I thought, you know what, I'm doing all right. And then I met my husband, and it was a completely different story this time, something I've never experienced before. I met him online, and the day we met, we weren't gonna, it was all a bit of a faff, to be honest, and I almost let him down, but it didn't. We managed to grab it together, and oh my goodness, I'm so glad we did, because the day we met, I walked into the pub to meet him, and something physically clicked inside me. I didn't know what it was at the time, because I didn't, and he knows this, I didn't particularly fancy him. I didn't think, like what I was used to doing when I met people. But we chatted and we chatted and we chatted. And at one point he said, he said, oh, so nice to just be able to chat. He said, because the women I've been meeting, all they go on about is that they've been in an abusive relationship and they don't want to get treated like rubbish. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've got something to tell you. And I was like, I was in an abusive relationship with very, very like quite a severely abusive relationship. And I was like, and yeah, I used to live in the refuge. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he was like, and then so bear in mind, I had at the time I had a 5-year-old and a 14-year-old, and he said, oh, I've got 4 kids. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so both of us were like, whoa, not too sure about this. But anyway, we had a great night. He let me chat. He made me feel important. I walked into the door and felt stupid, but it was fine. Silly little things. He made me feel comfortable and comfortable enough to be me. Um, and from that day on, he never gave me any reason to doubt him. He never let me down. Um, he's the best thing that, apart from my children, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. He loves me unconditionally. He supports everything I do. That click was my final piece of the puzzle. It really, really was. And he's enabled me to truly be free to be me. Now, don't get me wrong, when I'm saying enabled, I was already at that point of loving myself enough to be me, because I don't think I would have met him had I have not been in that position. However, when you have that support of true love, unconditional love, geez, now I know why my sister's so confident and does whatever she wants, because she's always had that from 18, 19 years old. I'm not saying you need to find that within yourself first, but it is that final piece. I really, so anyway, met my husband. Was working, had a really lovely, lovely job. Not as well paid as I wanted to, and was really feeling I needed to do more. I wanted to do more with myself. I wanted to fulfill my potential and earn my potential and things. And that was it, wasn't it? It should be all hunky-dory. I've got this man that loves me. I've got, the great children. We've got lots of children between us. We've got 6 children. However, they all got on so well. They were all lovely. They've made it so easy for us. His children are a lot older. So we've got from like a 30-year-old to Ellis, who's 12. So we've got a lot, lot of children at a lot of different ages. But it's so easy. Love them all. They are fantastic. So that's it, isn't it? I'm sorted. And then I went self-employed, and I was meeting people who didn't know me, who didn't know my past, who didn't know my dirty little secrets, who didn't know how damaged I was. This is how I was talking to myself. This is how I started talking to myself again, which blew me away, because I thought I was over all this shit. Sorry, all over this. And I felt awful. I felt I was lying to people. I thought people were getting to know me and liking me, but they didn't know me. They didn't know who I was. So I was lying to them, and this made me feel like a fraud. And I never felt as good as anybody else. I always felt that everybody was better than me. And don't get me wrong, I now know going self-employed, running your own business is a roller coaster of emotions. We all have self-doubt. It's part of our growth. I'm a coach. I know it's part of our growth. You know, if we're not having doubt, we're not growing. If we're not feeling uncomfortable, we're not growing. We're not moving forward. I get that. But what got me is these awful words I used to describe myself and to talk to myself. I hated myself. I spoke to myself with disgust. I was dirty. I was damaged. I wasn't good enough to be in their company. And I'm like, where on earth has this come from? Like, I've got this guy that worships the ground I walk on. We've got fantastic relationship with the kids. By this time, I'd shared my story a lot, and my son, who's now grown up, I'd shared a bit more of what went on, and he was like, Mum, you're amazing. You've done the right thing. I am who I am now because of you, and I wouldn't want to be anyone else. And like, I love you. Like, I had so much support, but why wasn't it good enough? Why isn't that enough? Why was that not enough for me? I didn't get it. And it's because of the emotional damage that abuse and domestic abuse does to you. Any form of abuse. I went through the whole range, the whole list of forms of domestic abuse. I'm on it. but that doesn't make any other person's abuse any less traumatic. Whatever we've done, it's got us deep down. It's got hold of us because it has been repeated and repeated, and that's what they do. They make you feel worthless. They don't just make you feel worthless, they make you believe you're worthless. And only you can get yourself out of that belief. And doing the self-coaching that I knew of, and coaching myself and working on myself, my body and my health, I was aware that, do you know what, I can't do all this by myself. So I got a mindset coach, and who was wonderful. You know, she didn't work on the fact that I was an abused person. She worked on my mind, my present mindset. You know, what was making me feel not good enough. And I kept saying to her, I know I can do so much good with women. I know I am meant to work with other women. I know it hurts me deep down inside to know that other women feel rubbish about themselves, whether that's because of past abuse or whether because it's just because they put themselves at the bottom of the list for far too long. I understand how that hurts, how debilitating it can be. And I said to her, I know I can do this. I don't know how, and I don't, but there's something stopping me. It's the self-belief, is stopping me, and feeling I'm not good enough is stopping me. And anyway, she enabled me to get rid of, or push through as much as I could, to start doing what I'm doing now. Running running a healthy lifestyle club that helps all women that have sort of lost sight of themselves and feeling uncomfortable in their own skin to feel better about themselves, to feel confident about their bodies. Doesn't matter about what weight you are. Don't get me wrong, some of people come with weight loss goals. We soon get rid of them weight loss goals, because it's about how you feel inside, how comfortable you feel on the inside in your own skin. So I run the Healthy Lifestyle Club. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm now doing my professional life coaching qualifications to be accredited, because I understand, and it gets me, and I want to enable and support women to feel fantastic about themselves, because I focus on just women because that's where the deeper understanding comes from, and I'm not pushing aside anything that men have gone through, anything like that. It's just where I choose to work. Because when you feel good about yourself, when you love yourself enough, you are less likely to get involved with somebody that's going to hurt you, with someone that's going to treat you with anything other than the love, respect and appreciation you deserve. So by doing that, I felt I was taking a step towards not eradicating, but reducing the likelihood of the amount of women stuck in abusive relationships or returning to abusive relationships. Or getting involved in an abusive relationship in the first place. And now I've gone a step further, and I'm setting up my social enterprise, which is due to be registered at the end of the week, when I can get all the forms signed by my lovely two directors. So as I move forward with this, it's going to enable me to help survivors with the thriving part of their journey. There's so many wonderful charities out there doing prevention work, doing intervention work. But I know from experience that once you're out there on your own, once you've been housed, once you've gone through the level of support they can offer, you're on your own, and you're on your own with them demons. You really, really are. And it's taken me a long time to walk my walk. And by using the profits I make from my Healthy Lifestyle Club, from my independent private coaching and mentoring, I can fund coaching, mentoring, therapies. I know lots of lovely therapists that are going to be coming on board, and other coaches, to provide a level of service or a holistic service to these women, identifying what they want to move, how they can move forward with their lives, make the most of their freedom, which will reduce the chances of them going back, staying in that circle of that abusive, toxic circle that you do get drawn into, and that you find comfortable. I want to help them push what I'm doing, push their comfort zone to reach and fulfill their potential, because we all deserve ultimate love, respect and appreciation, and to be living the life that we dream of. We really, really do. And I'm on my way, and yeah, it's taken me a long time, but with my experience, with my knowledge, with my professional experience, with my mentoring, with the help of my directors and the support of other therapists, and that I know will open the doors and light the way for survivors to not just survive, to thrive and make the most of it, despite what the past is the past, guys, and that's done. You know, we might have to deal with certain things that have come up as a result of the past, but there is so much light and love ahead of us. There really, really is. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I'm going to, you know, build my social enterprise. And that's it, really. That's me. In a nutshell, sort of.
Wow. I've just spent all of that crying and snotting my face off on the other end.
I saw you crying, and that gets me because I don't.
And that's it. I know.
You know what? But that's whether I don't think it's selfishly. That's the emotions we need to invoke, isn't it? Because when you can feel that sort of level of emotion, then the hope is even higher, then the light is even brighter, then you can see the potential of how much is out there. You know, because if you can go from that to that hope of do what you want to do what you love. Let's work on you first, learn to love yourself. Let's get you going. Let's get your diet. I know this is me. Get your diet and fitness going. Let's get you looking after yourself in the most universal, acceptable way possible. And let's reach for them stars once you feel confident enough to go for it.
That's so powerful because so many people say that, and then when you say it, the words, the energy behind your words is so powerful because you have that lived experience of why self-love is a lifesaver, why self-love is a game changer, and why, and I'm really passionate that women stop putting themselves last and stop treating themselves like rubbish, because I've always asked myself, because I've experienced a lot of trauma and devastation in my life, so from the beginning of my life. So when I was a little girl, I used to look at the clouds and ask the sky, why is there hurt in the world? Why, if there's a God, why does he let bad things happen? Why did they kill my dad? I was in a civil war, and my dad was murdered as they came to England when I was 6 years old. Okay. So I've been in that, facing that stuff since I was little, because nobody, like you say, nobody counselled us that level of post-traumatic stress and all the rest of it. So so why? And then so I've always asked myself that question, because that's a really powerful question. Why does bad happen? So because surely then, if I understand that, thought my little young child mind, then I can help goodness to happen. At least if I've suffered, let other people not suffer like I have, or at least can I be in service, such as you explain. And the conclusion I come to again and again now, more as a mature woman, is that a lot of the suffering is caused because women put themselves last. And they treat themselves like shit. Yeah. And they allow themselves to be treated like shit because we are educated, taught, programmed, brainwashed, and mind controlled to put ourselves last and take care of everybody else first. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem. And you are saying the solution, and I agree with you. I think that is the solution.
It's always, isn't it? You've grown up. Like, I use that analogy. I don't know if you can remember, years ago there was that the advert about who are you going to give your last Rolo to.
Yeah, I remember.
I want to give them my last Rolo myself.
Bloody self.
Why does someone have to have my last Rolo?
Annoy me, that used to make me.
It's such a metaphor, isn't it? Like, why is everyone else more important than you?
Yeah.
Why does everyone else deserve that last Rolo but not you?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting conditioning, isn't it? You know, why should I have to give everything to others and then forget about myself? That for me is the be all and end all of the question, because if woman is well, happy, okay, relaxed, supported, well, the whole world works. The family works, the marriage works, the world just works.
It really does. And I know that now. I know because of how well I'm working now. with the support, we have to fill our own cup. I know it's a cliche, but we have to fill our own cup. And I've done that. Something I'd done that really stood out, actually, having said this, was obviously being a single parent. And again, like, which you often end up as a single parent. I don't mean to generalize here, but you often end up as a single parent when you leave an abusive relationship as a woman. So then the kids always come first, don't they? And I remember my one step towards myself love and self-respect and self-appreciation of my time. I used to take half an hour a day to watch a program I wanted to watch. And I started, and at first it was really difficult. I'd said to, because Ellis was a toddler, and I was like, but can you two play in your room for half an hour? I just want half an hour. It was really difficult at first, and they kept coming out and coming out. And then after about a month or so, I would be so angry if they come out. Not if they come out, but if they disturbed me, they could come out. And that's you valuing your own time, and that's you showing them as children as well that you value your time is also important. What you want is also important. But like you say, we're brought up and conditioned, everyone else comes before us, guys. And don't get me wrong, we have this built-in urge, don't we, to look after. I want to cook lovely meals for my husband and my children. I want to do that. There's nothing wrong in that. What there is something wrong in is when their needs always come before your own. And because then you start to feel resentful, then you lose sight of who you are. If I ask you, not you personally, but if I ask somebody, what do you want? And what do you like doing? And they're like, I don't know. You're like, when was the last time you've done something you like doing? I don't know. When was the last time you chose what as a family you were doing? Doesn't matter what the kids wanted, because the kids, don't get me wrong, I've brought up two boys on my own. I'm a football mum. I've done a lot for my children, and I still do, and I love doing it. I love looking after my children. I really do. However, I can look after them a lot better when I've got something in the tank. Exactly. And that's what it is. And like you say, when we're operating, the whole world is operating.
I just think that, this is why I'm so passionate about publishing and broadcasting these conversations, because they're game changers. They're life-saving. Some of these podcasts have changed people's lives already. Yeah. And I just think what you're saying is, what you've just illustrated is that if something is shone the light of consciousness on something. So for example, everybody wants to do this and want to do that, but if I'm not taking part in that, or if I'm not putting my needs into the mix as well, it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
So we're not saying, you're not saying, right, totally change your head, flip top head. Do you remember that advert? New head that's got self-respect in it and good boundaries. And that's
not going to work.
It's just having the awareness of, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing again. Oh yeah, that's why I'm feeling resentful, because I haven't had a minute to myself all day.
Do you know what? One of my clients' tasks at the moment, between these next 2 weeks, between sessions, is to have 5 minutes a day on her bed, just listening to herself. 5 minutes. And she's like, yeah. I was like, can you do that? And she's like, I think so. I'm like, can you do that? Yes, I can. Okay. Tell your boys, tell the older ones, you're just having 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be, right, okay, it's all about me now. That's not what we're saying.
I know.
It's just about, like you said, being aware of, do you know what? I'm starting to feel a little bit resentful. My temper's I'm becoming a bit short-tempered. I'm snapping a bit. I need some time for me. I'm not giving myself enough. And how do you do that? Through living a healthy lifestyle. Look after yourself. It's an easy, simple way to look after yourself. Feed yourselves good food. Get out for some regular exercise. Get out for a lot of fresh air. Spend 5 minutes being with you and you alone. Doesn't take a lot of time, but really makes a big difference to the way you present yourself, to the way, the more love you give yourself, the more open you are to receive love and to give to others.
I think it's obviously not hard. It's like, please, will you give yourself 5 minutes of me time a day? Yeah. And then they go away going, yes, I'll do that. And then
yeah.
No, they're not going to. It's like, yes, miss. Of course, go
Yeah,
Chuck.
yeah, yeah.
Going to. So I'm going to go back to. But I think what you've illustrated and what you've presented is actually how big that mountain is to climb
Mm.
and go down again, to actually get to that real point of power of going, actually, I will give myself that 5 minutes or buy myself that magazine and
Yeah.
give myself the time to read it, because that's a really good point that you've made. It's coaches all over the place dish out fabulous wellness advice that's great. Now the mountain of actually being that and doing that and really embodying that, I think is it's a real like night and day difference.
Yes. Yeah. And like I say, when I said easy, I mean the actual action is easy. Taking the action isn't easy
That's the thing.
because of these beliefs of not being worthy, of being not as important as other people. I've always, one of my clients, I said, so what did you do instead of your 5 minutes? I've done the hoovering. And it's about, why did you feel doing the hoovering was more important than having 5 minutes to yourself? That's the difficult bit. That's the bit we work on, and we do that through, and that's why I use a foundation of a healthy lifestyle, because it's acceptable, isn't it? To say, actually, do you know what, guys? I'm doing this for all of us as a family. We're going to have salad tonight. I don't just promote eating salad, by the way, but we're going to have a really healthy meal tonight. And that is easier than saying I'm having 5 minutes to myself, but it's still an act of self-care. That's why I use, because it gets them into the habit of thinking, actually, I'm going to buy what I want, and it's going to make the kid, it's going to be good for them as well. So it's a really, why I say it's a universal acceptable way, because lots of people are on diets, which I don't agree with, but trying to be healthy, and that's why I think the foundation of a healthy lifestyle works so well, because that's generally what works better first of all. So they're like, yeah, actually, I've stopped snacking of an evening. That's great. That gets them into the habit of thinking about what they want, what they need, and then we tackle a little bit extra, like you say. But you are worthy enough to have some time for yourself. Why not go and follow a hobby? But what? And then from there, what do you want in life? And by that time, hopefully, a little bit of a cloud has lifted, and they're like, actually, I do want to do this, and I think I'm going to take some time out to do it. Like you say, we can't just say, do you know what, get off. Right after this call, you love yourself. Some of my clients can't even say the word love and self in the same sentence. You love yourself. You're going to have 7 hours a day just indulging in what you want. That is not going to happen. However, choosing a salad at the side of your plate rather than chips will. And that's an act of self-care in itself. And like you say, I've got women that can't even look at themselves in the mirror at the moment. So they're not going to go out and tell themselves they love themselves. And that's why actually bringing up Zumba, which I know I wasn't going to do Zumba. I wasn't going to bring Zumba into the mix. I love Zumba. I used to dance. I love it. Love to get everybody shaking. I love it. And I stopped doing it at Christmas and wasn't going to bring it into the mix. But then I thought, Zumba is about appreciating your body. It's not about how you look. We don't look like them girls in the Zumba adverts. We really don't. I really don't. Like, people have seen my page, I really don't. It's about enjoying your body. It's about letting yourself go and enjoying all that you are, regardless of what you look like, but just doing what feels good. So that's why I brought Zumba into the mix as well, because it's about how you feel on the inside. It's not about how you look on the outside. Don't get me wrong. People have it the wrong way round. They think, if I look good, if I lose weight, I'm going to be happy. Totally wrong around. If once you're happy with yourself, you're going to outwardly look good. What you internalize comes to force in reality and externalizes. And it's about appreciating where you're at now, isn't it? And thinking, like, this is what I've got to work with. It's not about, I'm not one to promise losing weight in however many weeks. In fact, you know what? A lot of my clients don't lose weight as quickly as they think they're going to. But by the time they've realised that, they don't care, because it's about how they're feeling so good about themselves. I don't weigh, it's not about numbers. It's not about the size you are. It's not about how much money. It's nothing to do with numbers. It's all to do with how you feel. And that takes a long time. That's not an overnight, is it? So I'm not going to come and say, yes, come with me and you'll be a size 8 and a however much stone and, looking like a Zumba lady in 3 weeks. You're not. And if you are, you're not going to stay like that because you've not dealt with what's going on up here. That's why people lose loads of weight and put it back on again. That's why millionaires lose people that win the lottery lose all their money again, because haven't got this. They've not got the mindset in place to be rich, to be healthy, they need to get the mindset in place, and that does not happen overnight. It really doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. So some takeaways that I'd like to take away from this.
Yes.
Okay. Lisa's 5 minutes challenge.
All right. 5-minute challenge.
Lisa's 5-minute challenge. Like, would you be willing to give yourself 5 minutes?
Oh yes, do it. Yes, guys, do it.
These are your super duper things, right?
Yeah.
The real highlight, because it sounds like nothing, but it is an Everest, big, massive, humongous, big, difficult mountain to climb, and you've just really validated and qualified why that is, and why you insist that, and I insist.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. Even cats have funny 5 minutes, don't they?
And that's it. You know what? Again, you've picked up something really, really good. If that 5 minutes is you screaming at the top of the voice, or do one of my Zumba songs and really go for it, give yourself those 5 minutes. Or it might be laying down in a quiet room, no distractions, and just letting your thoughts wander. Or it could be a walk. Give yourself your time. It could just be 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes will pay much more dividends than you think. It really, really will.
So, how 5 minutes can change your life. Bestseller by Lisa Johnson.
Yes. Let's come up with a list of all these things you can do for yourself in 5 minutes. And even if you only feel better about yourself in those 5 minutes, it's a start. You're not going to read a magazine. You're not going to have first 5 minutes and then feel good about yourself for the whole 23 hours and 55 minutes, for the rest of the day. But it will start to have an impact, and it's small steps. Small steps get you to where you want to be, and they ensure you stay there. A big leap doesn't. I just feel, you give yourself a mountain to climb, it's going to be too tough. You're not going to get started. You give yourself a little step to climb, that will get you there.
It's too overwhelming. It's too overwhelming to do.
Yeah, and like it's a journey. As you know, it really is a journey. But it keeps you going. It's just sort of, once you step on that conveyor belt, you do carry on going, because once you take that step onto it, you can't get off. So it just snowballs in a very lovely snowball. You have the snowball effect. The better you feel about yourself, the more you're going to give yourself time. The more you're going to give yourself more time, the better you're going to feel about yourself. It's just almost a self-fulfilling circle of love now, as opposed to a self-fulfilling circle of hate. It really is. And then it'll come and bite you in the bum again. Always. I still have my days. Of course, like you say, and everybody has them days. And like you said, it's about being aware of those days. What it's going to be like forever. And I think going back to the work I want to do with survivors, that people that are just surviving, is that they think the way they're feeling with these not being good enough is going to last forever, because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know the wonderful therapies out there. They're not aware of, obviously, coaching methods and things like what we are, and self-coaching methods. They might not have as much resilience as what we show. But they think it's going to be forever. But knowing that everybody worldwide goes through these dips, self-doubt always bites you in the bum. And don't get me wrong, when you have suffered emotional abuse, domestic abuse, it's quite painful. Those things come up, obviously. The things come up, and it's going to bite you. But it's about knowing, saying, oh, okay, that's why that's happened. Right, let's take it back again now. I've obviously not been in my self-lust. Let's take it back a bit. let's just go and sit and have a cup of tea. You know, like something, okay. Or you could be pushing yourself, like you're saying, some clients, I'm going to do this, and this, and coaches are like, yes, let's tick this off. When are you going to do that by? When are you going to do? This is what I don't, that's not how I coach. I do not coach as in, right, what are you doing? When are you doing it? I'm going to be like, how can we make sure you stick to that? What could come up and bite you in the bum? Is there something, your thought, a feeling, a word you're going to say to yourself that might come and bite you in the bum so you don't do that? How can we work through that? Because it happens, and it's about being aware of it and thinking, right, let's take it back now. Go back to simplicity. You know, make myself a smoothie. And it's simple things. It's not easy, but it's finding those mechanisms, those tools, those strategies through either a healthy, through diet, exercise, coaching, therapy. It's about your tools and strategies you have in place to be aware of where you're at and how you can bring it back down to an achievable act, an achievable action. Because it's no good you using affirmations if you don't believe your affirmations.
I'm so glad you said that. I think there are no use unless that
yeah
has been done. I love them now.
Me too.
Their cards years ago.
Yeah.
I gave all my affirmation cards away, but now.
Yeah, I love. But do you find that some days you just can't do it? Some days you're just like, I'm not in that space. Yeah. Like they just don't feel right. And it's about knowing you're in that space, knowing that you're going to get back out of that space. But survivors don't, because they've lived with this emotional abuse and emotional damage for so long, they can't see the way out of that. And that's why I've opened the social enterprise, because they might not be able to afford my services, but they might not be aware of the services that are out there. But we can, through the social enterprise, we can show them that, I can show them that there is a way out. Yeah, you've got to start small. It's not going to happen overnight, but you do not have to live your life just surviving. It's the same with everyone. It's not just even survivors, is it? So many of us just survive, like say, like women that have put themselves last. You do not have to live with that life of just surviving. There is better out there. You'll have days where you think it's just surviving. We all have days where we just got to get through the day, and we go to bed thinking, thank God for that, or we spend the whole day thinking about when can we have a glass of wine. We all have those days. I'm a healthy lifestyle. Fridays, I can't wait to open a bottle of wine. We all have those days, but it's being confident and aware enough that those days will pass, and how you can help yourself get past those days. Hopefully I can support women to make it a little bit easier. But like you say, there's all like love, self-love is all bandied about now, isn't it? And it really, really is. And everyone loves everybody else, and I, like you say, I hate. So I really dislike empty words. And you can tell, don't you think? You can tell people come across and you're like, you're being a bit too over familiar here. I'm a big one for getting to know someone first. But when I first met you and there's so much love coming from you, I felt that was authentic. That's why immediately we sort of clicked. And other people I've met in the same circle, I've clicked because I felt it was authentic. Whereas the kiss in the air kind of people, oh darling, mwah, 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 literally not actually having any physical contact. That's not me. I'm a hugger. If I hug, I'm going to give a proper hug. This social distancing is a nightmare for me at the moment, because I can't I can't meet my clients face to face. I can't hug everybody. But it's got to come from here, hasn't it? And to end, the reason I can give it so much is because I've given it to myself now. And because I've given it to myself now, I receive it in bucket loads. And don't get me wrong, my self-belief isn't perfect. It really, really isn't. I've still got work to do on that, but I receive a lot of love and a lot of appreciation because I spend time loving and appreciating myself. And because of that, I've got so much more to give, and I can give openly, and when I say I love you to someone random, some people, you barely know them, and you're like, do you know what, I love you. And there is there's different loves, isn't there? But it is a genuine love for that person. It really is.
I just think the more that I meet myself, the more I can meet somebody powerfully, if that makes
Mm,
sense. And
mm,
yeah,
mm.
yeah, I'm really with you. Yeah, I agree.
And that's the difference between belonging and fitting in, isn't it?
Wow,
So,
that's
and it is, because
but
that's what I've done. I've tried to fit in, I've tried to adapt, I've tried to be who I should be, say the words that people want me to. I'm a very good communicator because I match people's methods of communication because I fit in. I've become a master at fitting in, but that doesn't fulfill me because it's not where you belong. If you have to work to fit in somewhere, that's not where you belong. And I'm finding places where I belong now. And I think that's what happened when I went self-employed. I went self-employed as an admin bookkeeper because I'm clever. That's what I should do. I'm good with numbers. I'm really good at admin. I've done it for years and years, and I was what I should be. But it got to a point where I was miserable. I'd had enough. I wanted to turn up I wanted to turn up at network meetings in short skirts and big boots because that's me in my hoodie. Don't get me wrong. I like how I look today. I quite like myself today. But I wanted to dress as me. I wanted to speak, and this is a big thing for me. I wanted to speak with my London accent. Like, I don't have as much of a London accent as I did have, and as much as my family still have. But I wanted to speak as me. If I drop my T's, it's not because I'm not good enough. It's because that's where I was. That's my dialect.
and I love that. I so
Yeah.
so that. I love that. It's real. And yeah, where we've been from, where we've come
Mm.
from, is because that compassion and that vulnerability, I think, is what networks all of our hearts.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable, being open, it's hard. People find
Mm.
it hard to be vulnerable, and
Mm.
that's just the one thing that heals and that
Mm.
unites. Well, I think
And I think it's getting better. I think as a collective, I think it's getting better. Maybe it's because I'm more open. I'm certainly finding circles and that are more open, and that now.
I'm finding that too.
Yeah.
It's courage. I
Yeah.
think it's lioness levels of courage. I really think so.
Yeah, I do. When I first started sharing my story, I'd have my nightmares would come back, and I'd shake. I would get a lot more emotional. But yeah, but it gets easier.
It
It
does.
does. It does. Well, it gets easier when it's having an effect on people. If it resonates with somebody, it's been worthwhile. So
One person.
yeah, that's all. Yes, that's it.
Life back to get themselves back. Wow.
To think, yeah, actually, I'm going to buy a loaf of brown bread, not a loaf of white bread. That's it, even like you said, or
Made me cry.
5 minutes.
That's what made me cry when you said about the. I didn't know what I wanted to buy. But I was like that. I was completely gone.
Yeah, I saw you actually, and to be fair, I've never really thought that was a big thing until then, and I was
Shaking.
yeah, because it's just your life, not just it's your life, isn't it? Like people say, you're so strong, and yes, I was strong, and I'm courageous, and I'm resilient. At the time, I didn't feel strong. At the time, you're doing what you do because life goes on. Life happens, life goes on. I worked out what food I liked. It was, and that was a good thing. That was a good time. Yeah, it's upsetting, but that was my freedom coming back to me, wasn't it? So, it was a good part of the story. It's your choices. It's your choice. You can have a 6 pack of donuts. That's your choice. But you're also choosing to feel a bit rubbish afterwards. And that's fine, because that is your choice. You've got to be in that place where you are aware of what choices you are making for yourself. And when you can get to that place where you make a choice based on your own good and based on self-care, that's a step forward, isn't it? Whether it's just one choice a day or 5 choices a day, doesn't matter. It's progress.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I love that you say things can come back, bite me in the bum. Things bite me in the bum all the time.
Yeah,
And I'm okay with that. That's just life.
it's fine.
And I get angry and wound up and shout and I'm so okay with that. I'm so okay with being human.
Yeah,
I can be in that place of celebration. It's
yeah,
like, yay, I'm so angry, woo.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
always,
or what is that about? What is that anger about? Just think about it. Um, they don't own you, does it? That's just telling you something. That's all it is, and it's being able to know that you can come out of that. I think that's when you can embrace those feelings, isn't it? I think it's trusting yourself, and this is what habits, healthy habits, habits um, form. They enable you to trust yourself, so that when you do have that day, like I do when I pig out all day, I'm all right with that. On Saturday I had way too. I sat there that night, and I could tell my belly wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the most settled because I'd eaten a lot, a lot of the wrong stuff all day. And I was like, oh, that's why. But I didn't beat myself up about it because I knew I'd be back to my normal the next day. And that's the trouble when you start feeling bad about something you've done or that you haven't achieved a goal, and then because you've set yourself 3 Zumba classes a week and you weren't going to be able to do that. And then you beat yourself up about it. If you carry on beating yourself up, you're not going to get back to that place, that mindset where you're going to do it, are you? So you just got to let it go, let it go. You just got to be like, I messed up a bit today, or but I enjoyed it. So who cares? Let's go again tomorrow.
yeah,
Who cares?
that was part of the
Yeah.
journey today. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it is about those days those off days, those angry days, those days when you don't want to be positive, when you just want to wallow in negativity. Who cares?
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
crack on with it afterwards. Get over it, acknowledge it, work through it, and then you can move on.
Exactly. And that's a lovely way of embracing and
Hmm,
not denying and not suppressing,
yeah,
which is healthy.
yeah, exactly. It's not just about healthy foods. It's not just about healthy body. It's about healthy mind as well. It really, really is.
I love that. And Lisa, I love you.
I love you too.
You're really amazing. I think
Thank you.
I love your heart. Yes.
Thank you.
And tell me your website address or your contact so that the people listening on podcast can.
Okay, so I'm on Facebook, Pearl Lifestyles, at Pearl Lifestyles.
Pearl,
Um,
as
Pearl Lifestyles, all one word. Pearl, yeah, as in
in the oyster.
something beautiful and valuable has been formed from a little irritant. It's
Oh,
layered itself up and has emerged as the beautiful, unique, individual thing it is. It's also
the sea as well.
Yes, and it's also an anagram of my 2 sons' initials, actually. And
Oh,
I've got a tattoo of a pearl on my back. So it's all very integrated. So it's Pearl Lifestyles on Facebook, and it's pearllifestyles.com, my website, which will be going through some changes. I think it's a little bit jumbled at the moment through my healthy lifestyle work and my survivors work. Well, as I've been trying to work things out, what I'm doing. But all the info of what I deliver is on there, and I'm also on Instagram, Pearl Lifestyles with Lisa, which is all about thriving after domestic abuse. So my Facebook page is my healthy lifestyle, very positive, does my challenges and things, and then my Instagram page is more about thriving after abuse. It's quite separate. So yeah, so just come and find me on Facebook. Initially, message me. Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your courageous heart with me and with us today. That will heal many hearts.
I hope so. I hope so.